A chaotic and neglectful family life can deprive a child of forming an identity, not just who they are, but what they like and what they want to pursue in their lives. And in adulthood, if this is you, you may try to fill this empty space with relationships, or rather the idea of a relationship to give you direction and a sense that your life matters and that you're real. My letter today is from a woman I'll call B, and she writes, "Hello, Anna." It's in really big letters. "Hello, Anna. I grew up in a home with a mother with untreated borderline personality disorder and depression. It's a lot. A brother with severe Tourette's, learning disabilities, and anger management issues. Oh, that's really a lot. And a father who worked as a long-haul truck driver who was gone most of the time working." Okay, I hear trouble coming. Here we go. I've got the fairy pencil. I'm going to circle things that I want to come back to in B's story, but let's see what's going on. It was a single-parent household with a dad I didn't really know popping in for a weekend once a month or so. My mother and brother would have very loud verbal fights almost constantly, and there was occasional violence. My mother loved me very much and became codependent with me and spoke of me like I was a golden child. But due to the additional needs of my brother and my mother's own mental health struggles, I often ended up feeling neglected and alone. I wasn't really allowed to fight back against my brother either, and was told I had to love and forgive him no matter what he said or did to me. I also was held to a much different standard than my brother. Yeah, because he had all those disabilities. As he had to really act out bad to be punished. But if I stepped a toe out of line, I would get blown up at because I was the well-behaved child. So I learned very early not to rock the boat. Oh yeah, that's not fair, but there it is. Due to this, I am a people pleaser, and I have a very anxious attachment style. I also tend to idolize people, excuse and dismiss their faults, and I have a lot of identity issues. Okay, well those could be kind of serious. I'm from Canada, and when I was 20, I moved to another country to be with a man I'd met online and had fallen for. I loved my life in that country, almost 5 years there, but then the relationship inevitably crumbled. When it did, I had to return to Canada with only 28 days' notice. Leaving the life I had built with such short notice crushed me. And to make matters worse, I came back to find my mother had sunken into a severe depression and was all but unreachable. And my father had lost his job and had become a massive hoarder, filling up my childhood home with clutter and trash. And that was the only place I could stay. I blamed myself for leaving my parents to their downfall. I'd abandoned them, and they floundered without me. Well, I think you're writing this because you know that's not true. You're not responsible. It was okay that you went to pursue your life and have a life. Okay. It was like my entire world was destroyed, and I was standing in the ruins of it with the detonator still in my hands. No. I hope you don't think that, but okay, we'll come back to that. I began trying to run away from my life, traveling regularly with unhealthy people because they could facilitate the travel for me. So I put up with their abuse to get what I wanted, anything to get away from my life at the time. On one of the trips, I met a man from Texas. I fell head over heels for him. I was convinced pretty quickly that this man would whisk me away to Texas and give me the life I really wanted, away from the traumas of home. He told me up front that he was damaged, having had a toxic childhood of his own and a string of failed relationships, that he didn't want a relationship. He said that up front, did he? Okay. He had previously been addicted to hard drugs and had tendencies of thinking about ending things for himself and a general apathy toward living. I saw his honesty about his mental health struggles as endearing and self-aware. Oh dear. Yep. Instead of the massive red flag I now see it was. More than a flag, really. It's a brick wall. Yeah, that was a no-go zone. That was a nuclear waste site. I thought he had a handle on them. We continued to chat, and within weeks we were dating, and I was flying to Texas once or twice a month to see him, and we were texting and calling every day. I thought things were perfect. You did? And that I'd moved down there to be with him soon enough. 6 months into the relationship, we planned a trip of multiple cities across America. It was to take around 2 weeks. On the second day, he got mad at me while at a very public event and broke up with me on the spot. The issue was we still had the whole holiday to complete. This is where I'm having trouble understanding you. No, you didn't. He broke up with you. To survive it, I basically deleted the breakup from my brain, and we actually completed the holiday while still holding hands, snuggling in bed, and being intimate. All the while, I knew I'd been dumped. It was excruciating, but I didn't know what else to do. So, my dear, that sounds like dissociation. It sounds like the ultimate crap fit there. The ultimate cool girl. Oh, you dumped me? That's okay. We'll just carry on like nothing happened. But it's telling to me, I'm just going to go ahead and comment on this letter without waiting till I get through the end, that you didn't know what to do. You didn't know what to do. And this is where your childhood comes into play, where you weren't cared for or taught or given that emotional intelligence to be like, what you do when somebody dumps you is you go and either have your own vacation or you go home, but you don't stay with them. Once somebody has dumped you, it's like poison. It's like sitting in boiling water. You don't want to be there, not only because it's miserable, but because it leads to the crazies. It just does. If you want to lose your mind, just stick around in a relationship where somebody has just already broken up with you. So you didn't know. And so I hear you. You didn't know, but that's what you do. Now you know. 2 months after returning to Canada, the pandemic hit, and suddenly he popped back up on my phone again. Did he now? Why am I not surprised? All right. We became quarantine buddies, talking on the phone and watching movies together for upward of 5 hours almost every day. All right, I got sarcastic about him there. He seems like somebody who, just wants to take what he wants and he doesn't want to have to be obliged to you at all, which made me mad. But then again, what you did when you acted like cool girl about the breakup and just stayed and had a holiday with him is you told him it was okay. You told him with your actions that you were flexible about his coming and going with his intentions for you. So you were 5 hours a day watching movies. It was remote, I guess, on Zoom, blowing kisses, calling me babe, chatting and texting constantly. Yeah, that would lead you to a certain impression. All the while still broken up, though. I thought that maybe he was changing his mind. I could see why you thought that, but he didn't say it, did he? Because at the time of the breakup and multiple times after, he would say that he didn't know what the future held regarding us ever getting back together. All right. I want to just step in and be your mentor for a second here and be like, I know your trauma would lead you to say that if somebody says, I don't really know if I want to be with you, you have this amazing capacity to hold out the possibility of the best possible outcome, that they will come around, because that's what you had to do your entire childhood. I believe in you. I will not complain. I'll just be nice and walk on eggshells and make everybody happy. I won't get in trouble. I'll be nice to my abusive brother. I won't complain about my dad's absence. But now you're a grown-up and it has to end, because this is what happens. This is what happens when you accommodate other people's terrible behavior. I mean, your brother couldn't help it. Your family really couldn't help it either. I mean, hardly anybody can help themselves when it comes to trauma in the family. But you were not raised well. You were not cared for properly. And so now you're the grown-up who has to step in and care for yourself properly, and not let people treat you like this, and not stick around for it, and not watch movies together and hang out for months, not asking where the person is coming from, and not holding on to hope that they said, I don't know where this is going, but that means maybe it's good. If somebody doesn't know, they're not good for dating. They're just not good. I'm going to suggest, I tell everybody this, if you tend to go for unavailable people, which is what's happening, it's time for you to write a list of qualities that you must have. And one of them is they love you. They're so excited to be with you. Only date people who are excited to date you. They may not love you yet, but time appropriate. It's got to be that. You can't be dating people who are like, I don't know. I couldn't say what the future is, but why don't you spend the night? Even if there was hope that they were going to come around, that will tend to kill it. That will tend to sort of ruin that possibility. Because it's a crap fit thing to do, because it communicates that you're not partner material. It's not strategic, but not that I'm saying be strategic, but it communicates something that doesn't cause people to fall in love and to, fight for you a little bit. So you've made it very easy to be indifferent to you. So this is the day all of that can change. This guy, okay, I hope you just stop having contact with him. The level of problem that he has in his life is egregious and not appropriate for dating, no matter how he felt about you. And he needs to be working on his life. And we're not doing a service for people who are fragile by being in messed up relationships with them. If you've been married to somebody for 10 years and then they have an addiction and a depression, yes, stand by them, go get therapy together. But this is just like a dating thing. Don't get involved with people who, can't even decide if they want to be alive. That is not a good plan for you. I can hear it. I can hear you don't know who to be. You don't know who to be without this guy. One day, about a year and a half into this stage of the relationship, and after 2 additional flights to see him, I got the courage to ask about his feelings toward me, and he again said he didn't know what the future held. Then he began to pull away. It was a slow process, and he never disappeared completely. He never explained why, and I was too afraid to ask. And each time he pulled away further, I became more desperate to pull him closer. That's your trauma wound. When somebody pulls away, we become desperate to pull them in closer, which is a non-logical response to somebody pulling away. The anxiety became overwhelming. I became obsessed. What little conversation we did have began to turn into therapy sessions where we would talk about his depression and not a lot else. But of course you're not his therapist, so it's really just you crap fitting, abandoning yourself to see if you can get love out of a depressed person, which when I say it, I hope it sounds a little bit odd, because it is. But I've done it. I totally have done it. I know, but I understand because I've been through it, and I also understand how it's not right because I've been through it. And hopefully when you hear that I did it, you can hear, that's not right. You wouldn't want that for me either, would you? All the while, I felt I had to walk on eggshells around him, though, for fear of doing something that would make him cut off contact for good. That's a terrible high wire to be on a person who doesn't want to be with you, maybe doesn't want to be alive, and then fearing they're going to cut off contact and somehow you have to make everything okay. That's really hard. And it's remote, and they don't really want you. During this time, there were 3 additional trips, 2 me going to him and 1 him coming to me, one of which I helped him walk through a mental breakdown where he was talking of ending his life. Seeing that was a genuinely traumatic experience. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Not a great idea for you at all, and not a great idea for him. If he's in that situation, he needs to be with a professional. During each trip, it was like we were a couple again, and for about a week or so after each visit, he would be super attentive, like he was at the beginning, but then he'd begin to pull away again, and thus I felt I had to keep going to get it fired back up, even though I knew it wouldn't last, and that each trip he had less energy and a more depressed mood. So I don't know if you can hear this, but isn't that just like somebody who is using a drug and a little bit, if I just keep chasing the drug, I can get the high again, and then it goes away again, and then I get the drug again. So that's what happens with intermittent reinforcement, somebody who likes you and then pulls away and likes you and pulls away. And even without the trauma that you lived through, even rats and mice will become obsessed with something that's intermittently reinforced with them. It's just like a brain trick on mammals. And the only way to break it is to break it, to get out and stop. But here's your dilemma. I fear me pulling away from him completely may lead him to self-harm or worse. As he's said repeatedly, he doesn't have anyone in his life to support him. I feel like that burden is on my shoulders. He uses his depression as an excuse for why he has pulled away. But he did once admit to me months later that he pulled away because he wanted to quell my feelings for him and that it was good for me, even though I told him it hurt me. I identified that as gaslighting, you say, and started to see the cracks in the relationship for the first time. I want to call you on that. He's not gaslighting you. He's telling the truth. He's pulling away because he doesn't really want to be with you. And one of the reasons is he doesn't want to, he wants to quell your feelings. He at least has a heart enough to be he doesn't want to drag you through this with him. He doesn't want you there. I think it's natural to be really afraid when people are talking like this, to be afraid they're going to harm themselves. I've been in that situation. One time they did, one time they didn't. I hated it. I never want to be in that again. And I got some help from a very famous trauma therapist, actually, when I first started Crappy Childhood Fairy. People write to me sometimes and say they want to end their lives. And I used to spend every evening writing these long letters, pleading with them, don't do it, don't do it. And I asked this master therapist, who's very well known, how should I handle this? And they said, look, you're not even a therapist. This is what you say. You say, this is very serious. Do you know who to call right now? I want you to call right now. Call your therapist, call a hotline, get help immediately. This is so important that you do that. And I wish you the best. Please go do that. And then you pull away. That's what you do. And what I was reassured is, of course we feel responsible. Like, can we keep them alive by sticking around? But you're not a therapist. And not only that, but you're kind of like strung out on this guy. You're trying to get love out of him. You're trying to massage the situation so that it turns out your way. And all of that is putting tremendous pressure on a fragile person. Sometimes it's without all these props and people hanging around and tangled, messed up relationships that we can most see clearly what we need to do. I know that's what needed to happen for me to finally recover, because I was really kind of depending on a lot of people. And when they pulled away, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. He's going to do whatever he's going to do. I encourage you not to have him in your life anymore. You don't even need to be concerned with what happens. You didn't cause this problem. You can't control it, and you can't cure it. That's a saying I learned in 12-step recovery, and it's a good thing that applies right now. You are the one who needs to be healing right now. And right now, through this dynamic of your trauma and sort of a people-pleasing and codependent urge to try to save the little bit of love that you feel like is available to you in this world, you're depriving yourself of having real friends and love. Sitting on Zoom, talking to some guy who's like, I don't know. You are worth so much more than that. So I really want to encourage you to consider going to 12-step meetings wherever you live. They have them. You can do them online. You can do them in person. In person is good. You qualify for Friends and Families of Alcoholics, Al-Anon. That would be good because of this relationship. ACA, Dysfunctional Families, that one would be good. CODA, Codependence Anonymous, that one would be good. I don't know if you have any substance stuff, but there's programs for that too. And it's so wonderful because you can begin to get honest with real people who understand about what's going on and hear them and support them and possibly make some friends while you're there. And find a sponsor and get real help and start walking yourself be out of this mess, out of this lonely, sad mess you've got yourself in. It's really normal. It's not your fault that you have this wound from trauma, the way that you were raised. You got injured, but you can start walking the path of healing. I really encourage you to do that. You can also use the tools that I offer. I have a free course. I have courses you can buy. I have a membership. We have this incredible community in the membership with people who support each other with very similar things that they're healing too. What tremendous progress we can make when we have proper tools and some friends who get it. So I wish that for you. If you just want to dip your toe in and just see, did my childhood affect the way that I have relationships? I have a quiz that walks you through some signs that, yes, this is the case. And you or anybody, you can download that for free right here. And I will see you very soon.